Hello everyone, my name is Barry O'Dowd, and as a member of the RDS, Royal Dublin Society Committee of Enterprise, it is my pleasure to welcome you to the second event in the RDS Disruptors 2021 series. This new series will showcase some of the world's fastest growing companies who are on the path to becoming the next generation of industry leaders. The series continues the historic work of the RDS and its commitment to sharing the latest ideas to shape the economic and cultural development of Ireland. Our goal with the series is to help Irish entrepreneurs to scale and succeed as they learn from leading entrepreneurs and innovators who are breaking new ground in their sectors and redefining how we do business. Further details of the RDS Disruptors 2021 series are available on the RDS website, and links are included below. We're delighted to be working with IDA Ireland on this series, and I'd once again like to introduce our host to the series, Aimee Williams, Vice President Content, Consumer and Business Services Division, IDA Ireland. Aimee is responsible for promoting Ireland as an investment location for some of the world's largest and most innovative companies. Her experience spans a diverse range of sectors, including technology, consumer products and services, life sciences, startups, and clean technology across international markets. Throughout this series, Aimee will be speaking with some of the leading Irish and international disruptors who are transforming not only their own sectors, but the wider economy and society also. We are delighted to welcome Dorothy Creaven, Vice President, Managing Director and Site Lead at Rent the Runway, a fashion tech from New York City, as our guest today. Dorothy joined Rent the Runway as Managing Director for Ireland in June 2019. She has extensive experience in scaling enterprise software development teams with an impressive background in software engineering, which includes being recognized as one of Ireland's top 25 female engineers in 2017. Thank you to Dorothy for joining us today. And I would now like to hand you over to our host, Aimee Williams.
Thank you, Barry. Rent the Runway is a really innovative and impressive fashion and technology company from New York. It is on a mission to disrupt the $2.4 trillion fashion industry, and over the past 12 years has built a whole new online model for how women get dressed. They have pioneered the world's first closet in the cloud. They work with the world's most renowned fashion designers. They are female-founded and led, and just over 2 years ago, they opened their first ever international office here in Ireland. My guest today is the Irish site lead of this office, Dorothy Creaven. Tasked with building a new technology hub in Galway, Dorothy joined Rent the Runway as employee number 1 in April 2019. In her role as Vice President and Managing Director, Dorothy is responsible for scaling the team and overseeing new product development and software engineering activities. Dorothy herself is well versed in the startup and scaling technology world and has over 20 years experience in enterprise software, tech startups, and in management and leadership roles for both SMEs and multinationals. Dorothy has co-founded her own multi-award-winning technology startup, Element Wave, as well as having worked at billion-dollar companies such as Google, EPAM, and Abbott Vascular. Dorothy has a degree in electronic engineering and today specializes in scaling technology companies from rapid growth greenfield sites to global software R&D organizations. She brings a huge wealth of knowledge to our Digital Disruptor series, and I'm delighted to be speaking with her today as we share the story of fashion tech disruptor Rent the Runway and explore Dorothy's insights on scaling an engineering and software team. Dorothy, you are very welcome.
Thanks, Aimee. I'm delighted to be here.
You have some background, really impressive, huge depth of experience from being an entrepreneur yourself to working with those large multinationals. Perhaps maybe to kick off, you might talk us about how these experiences have shaped your career to date.
Sure. So yeah, as you mentioned, I have a degree in electronic engineering. So I started out in my career as a software engineer, and that was a really great way to kind of put everything I learned in college, which was NUI Galway, into practice. So I spent a couple of years working in the sound engineering space. I used to write like different plugins for Pro Tools. and then progressed through my career, decided to get more into the business and operations side, into recruitment for a while. And then the opportunity arose where I was really passionate about startups, and I wanted to found my own tech startup, which I did. And that was running successfully from Galway for about 7 years, and that was in the mobile marketing automation space. And then from there, I suppose the opportunity arose with Rent the Runway. I got a call about it. I wasn't really looking for a move at that point, but as soon as I started learning about the company, I just absolutely fell in love. It's a tech company, it's a fashion company, it operates in the circular economy space, so it was literally a match made in heaven.
That's fantastic. But if we dig into a little bit, Rent the Runway, because we're talking today about disruption and scaling, and Rent the Runway is a massive disruptor. They have pioneered a whole new industry. Can you maybe give us an introduction to Rent the Runway?
Yeah, so Rent the Runway is changing the way women get dressed every single day across the US. So we're a tech company that specializes in fashion, accessories, homewares, and we offer our US customers the ability to rent or buy any of these amazing items from over 700 brand partners. In Galway specifically, we're a software engineering and machine learning engineering headquarters, just making some great inroads into tackling a lot of the really complex problems that our engineers love to work on when it comes to scaling a company and its technology in parallel. So it's been an exciting journey over the last couple of years.
Yeah, it's a hugely impressive company. And I mentioned there, they're female founded and led. Maybe just for those listening today, can you share a bit about how that company how it came about?
Yes.
And a bit about the insight into the founders, because I think it's really, really great to see female-founded technology companies.
Absolutely. So the company was founded back in 2009, but if we go back a year before that, Jen Hyman, who is our amazing co-founder and CEO, she was having a conversation with her sister, and her sister really wanted to spend $2,000 on a beautiful designer dress that she was only going to wear once. So Jen was thinking there has to be a better way to really get access to amazing designer clothing without having to, use the credit card and get yourself into potential credit card debt. Yeah. So that idea kind of sparked, and with her co-founder then in 2009, they started the company. Initially, it was an event rental business. So you would, rent a dress for a particular event. But since then, and now the company is about 12 years old, we now run a kind of an everyday occasion, fashion rental business. So by occasion, I suppose I mean it could be workwear, it could be going out for dinner with your partner, meeting your friends for lunch, going to the park. Literally every single occasion that you can think of, you can now rent clothing from Rent the Runway, and now you can actually buy clothing. So we have a subscription model that was released in 2016. And from there, really, it's kind of taken off. It's no longer very focused on the one-off rentals. It's more around how do women use this amazing service to really fill up their wardrobe, and without that commitment of really buying a lot of inventory or a lot of garments.
And I suppose that's how you've termed that closet in the cloud, because that's literally what it is.
Yeah, Jen's vision throughout the whole thing was very much around how do you make these amazing designer clothing accessible, and it is in the cloud. So you can literally, you go onto our website, and unfortunately, it's only available for US customers at the moment. But really choose among the 700 plus designer brands that we have that we work with. You can rent ski wear, anything that you can think of. Literally. We rent it, or now we offer our customers the ability to buy it as well.
Yeah, it's fantastic. And, I suppose when we talk about disruption, to become a disruptor of any industry, it's often a combination of different factors, whether it's that founder vision, a new technology, that finding that product market niche, something that really allows us create something new that no one else has. And I suppose, what are the elements of this with Rent the Runway that would stand out for you?
It really goes back to Jen's vision. She had a very, very clear vision from the get-go that there should be some opportunity for women to really be able to rent whatever they want. So she had a very clear vision all those years ago, and while it started off in the one-off event rental space, it has evolved where we're over, like a lot of our most engaged customers are actually renting over 100 days per year,
Wow.
which is incredible. So I think the founder vision is incredibly important. Before the circular economy was even deemed a phrase, that's essentially what Jen was a big advocate for. So I think really combining that ability to operate in the sustainable space as well as the circular economy space as well as the fashion, it all just goes so well together. So it has to be down to Jen's vision.
Yeah, that's fantastic. And you know, Ireland, you set up this operation back 2 years ago. How does that fit in as part of that journey for Rent the Runway?
Ireland played a really key role in conjunction with our US site as well, where we really wanted to expand our software engineering, machine learning, data science, product side of the organization. So ultimately, when the opportunity came up for Rent the Runway to really expand on that type of skill set, Ireland became quite an obvious location to be based. Clearly the availability of talent here, the culture here is a really good match for Rent the Runway. I know IDA played a key part in bringing over Rent the Runway to Ireland, yourself included. So once I think people started to become more familiar with the type of people that we could hire here, the amazing ability, I suppose, to merge the talent part with the culture part. I mean, our engineers work on incredibly complex projects. You know, we have a reverse logistics operation. It's built on so much technology to enable us to service our customers in the way that we would like to. So hiring from the talent pool, specifically in the west of Ireland, it's been such an interesting journey over the last couple of years, especially because Rent the Runway wasn't necessarily a well-known brand in Ireland. Yeah. So that in itself was a really interesting thing to start digging into from the beginning. How do we build a brand where we want amazing engineers to apply for these jobs, but ultimately, if they aren't familiar with the brand, where do we go about doing that? So that's exactly where I started.
So if you cast your mind back to 2019, you're employee number 1. What do you think about, or how do you go about starting an engineering team?
Yeah, well, unfortunately, there's no blueprint available. So, I mean, I think what I really did was put it back to the very basics. And it really, a lot of it came from my experience of having my own startup as well. Figuring out how do we really get the idea out there that there is an amazing company that you want to work for, essentially, if you're an engineer. So from the very, very first day we did our jobs announcement, we had a very strong PR plan in place. I was really passionate about we need to start building the brand from day zero. So ultimately positioning ourselves as a company for engineers who like to work on extremely complex problems and amazing scaling tech challenges. So really, we started working together, sharing information on who is Rent the Runway as a company, what is our culture like. And I think the culture part is the area I spent a lot of time wanting to get right from the very first people that we hired, because ultimately the culture of a company is often many reasons why people want to work there. It's the reason I want to work in any company. So ensuring that our culture is right. We had an incredible culture across all of Rent the Runway. Our US office is incredible, and I really wanted to take part of that and have it over in Ireland as well.
So how do you do that? I guess that transfer of that culture piece, because you know you have the values, and how do you ensure you're bringing that to their first international office? Yeah,
so we have a set of core values that's really important, no matter what location that you're in. So ensuring that really resonated with our Irish culture as well, ensuring that we could really, take everything that our US colleagues did and, almost put an Irish flavor on that as well. For example, we do a ski day every year. Unfortunately, the climate in Ireland and the lack of mountains doesn't necessarily mean we can go skiing. So instead, we kind of turned that into a forest day, where we booked a day in an adventure centre in a beautiful forest park up in the west of Ireland, and looking to see how can we really take all of the amazing elements that are already in place and really have them ingrained in our Ireland side as well. Part of that was being quite strategic on the first people that I hired. So having a senior HR manager in place who really culture is part of the backbone of her role, and as well as an office manager who would essentially be that person who would be helping to bring the culture in the early days to the office. And then looking to see, okay, what is my 30, 60, 90-day plan? You know, what does success look like for the site at the end of those 90 days? How do we really ensure that we're hiring the right caliber of talent that's in line with the amazing caliber of talent that was already in motion in our New York office? I am a big planner. I'm all about metrics. As long as the goal of success is extremely clear to me, I know we can get there. So ultimately, in the first 90 days, we hired about 25 people, which was incredible. We built up our culture. We had such a great time doing it. It was very busy. And I suppose going back to my time as a software engineer and also as a startup founder and running a tech company, I have a quite wide network in Ireland as well. So it was very useful to really know and understand the space. And I think, especially for any other FDI companies considering coming into Ireland, having a startup or having a site lead that is very familiar with the market, I think helped as well.
And very focused.
Very focused.
Yeah, it's great. I love the 30, 60, 90-day plan. But another aspect, you know, trust is such an important part of any relationships. And, you know, you're setting up the first international office ever for Rent the Runway. So how do you go about building kind of that trust across the two sites?
Yeah, that's a great question. So ultimately, I think it's about building confidence. So from me, it was very much around culture and also on software delivery. Because ultimately, there is a lot of trust that needs to be built between sites. So from the culture perspective, it was really important that we were able to kind of showcase and learn what is the culture in Rent the Runway, how do we showcase the amazing personalities that we have in our engineers. So we used to do a lot of like cross-team events, and it could be, you know, over Zoom, or it could be, you know, town halls or company meetings where we have different people from different offices presenting different projects.
To each other, so you're getting that communication going
yeah,
across both sides.
Absolutely, yeah. And every Friday we do a demo hour, which is ultimately people sign up and do a 10 or 20-minute demo on something cool that they've worked on. Often it can be non-tech as well. So, you know, it could be how to make sourdough bread, or, you know,
but
looking
you've the
at
teams on both sides doing it kind of together, as opposed to it's an activity just for Ireland.
Yeah, exactly,
yeah.
exactly. So I think in a way that showcases people's interests, people's personalities, and also it's a great way to really understand other members of the teams that you might not work with every single day. So while you'll know your own team or your own kind of counterparts in a day-to-day kind of environment, you may not, you know, get the exposure to like lots of other teams. So in a way, it's a great way of getting to know each other. And then site visits 100%. So getting lots of people over to Galway, lots of our Galway team going over to New York, and really meeting each other in person. And unfortunately, over the last 16 months, that hasn't happened. But I'm really looking forward to reestablishing those kind of relationships, and just people getting the opportunity to go grab a coffee, go grab a drink after work.
Just coming back a little bit, I suppose, on the people side of scaling, and as you mentioned, you've hired really senior engineering talent. You've built this incredibly skilled team. You've talked about kind of when you're not a known brand, how you get such a strong caliber of talent. How have you gone about that? Any kind of good examples, I suppose, for anybody listening who's trying to build their brand and attract talent?
Yeah, I think it's really important to share the founding story. I mean, Jen came over in October of 2019. We had an incredible event where she was interviewed by one of Ireland's top tech journalists, understanding the founding story and really understanding the complexity of our business as well. It really showcases, I suppose, the depth of experience that our engineers need, and that often attracts a great caliber of engineer as well. We did, quite a lot of various events and articles, and they can be, smaller events in our offices in Galway. This is obviously pre-COVID, so I'm looking forward to getting back to them, where people really get an insight into what is the vibe like. They could get an opportunity to speak with a few of our engineers to really understand, like, what are the projects people work on? What is the culture like in the office? And then all of the other amazing stories that are often originate in New York around, you know, anytime Jen does an amazing piece to the press, the New Yorker, the New York Times. There's so much great information out there that we can really showcase the brand, Rent the Runway, the amazing journey it's been on over the last 12 years, the incredible vision that Jen has, and really what we're doing in Galway then from the software engineering and machine learning and data science perspective. And it really is an amazing place to work, which has a very collaborative culture. And we hire not only on skills, but definitely, you know, is this person going to be an amazing, you know, culture add to our company as well.
Can you maybe share a little on what some of the activities the team are working on?
Yeah, I mean,
without obviously giving anything, any trade secrets away, but I think that
we have quite a lot of teams working on so many different projects. You know, our data science and machine learning engineering is doing some amazing work around, you know, garments and, you know, how we create an amazing experience for our customers through the garments that they wear. We are working on, you know, some merchandising systems projects. If you think about how much inventory we could possibly have, it's an incredible amount. But how is that inventory stored? How is it tracked when it's within our warehouse, when it's gone from our warehouse? And the business is very much a reverse logistics business. So not only does the product have to go out in an amazing, you know, quality state, it also has to come back and get repaired and make sure that it goes out again and obviously cleaned and any stains removed or buttons repaired. But ultimately, all of those individual pieces of inventory need to get tracked, and we need to know where they are, so we can essentially, you know, predict maybe when they may be used again. Yeah. Or from a, you know, a different perspective, where exactly they're stored in our warehouse, right? So if you think about the event rental space, which is a smaller portion of our market right now, if you're wearing a dress for a one-off event, maybe that's stored in a slightly different location. Whereas if you're renting, you know, a casual sweater, maybe you need access to that inventory more easily than you would the other garments.
So it is really exciting because the teams here are working on technology that is fundamental to the business. So it's, you know, it's very much just, I suppose, I think some of your colleagues have talked about before, the Irish office being seen as just another floor of Rent the Runway, albeit across the Atlantic Ocean.
Yeah, absolutely. You know, we also have cross-functional teams like our quality engineering, you know, data science can hit every single project and team. We have consumer teams in Ireland now who work on our consumer platform. We're reworking some of like the kind of tech that we developed a while ago on the commerce piece. There's so much work that we want to do as well, and I think there's been a real opportunity and a huge appetite in Galway and New York to really work on some amazing projects that is really going to take the business forward from a tech scalability perspective.
Being a fashion tech company, has that had any, I guess, added benefits or challenges to recruiting a diverse workforce?
Yeah, I mean, that's another great question. So 60% of our senior leadership team are female. We have a very strong female presence in the company. Our founder is female. So there's definitely, you know, a natural synchronicity there where we would love to really, I suppose, hire a very diverse and equal workforce. And actually diversity, equality, inclusion is very much part of our core values. For me personally, I mean, with my electronic engineering background, you know, often I think there was one other woman in my class in university, 42 guys, and you know, I got very comfortable with that as well. It wasn't anything unusual. I think the stats are changing, albeit very, very slowly. So even outside of my role with Rent the Runway, I'm very passionate about how do we increase the percentage of women in science, technology, engineering, and maths. NUI Galway is a great advocate for it as well. Mm. And often, you know, also as my role with Galway Chamber of Commerce, so I also sit on the council there, we're really looking to see how we can create more diversity from within the tech ecosystem and wider to really start looking how we can specifically address that balance. Yeah. And only recently, actually, with Rent the Runway, we announced our gender-neutral family leave policy, which is 20 weeks paid parental leave for all genders in Rent the Runway. So, yeah, which is a great step change, I think, in really equalising how We look how families have their babies, and ultimately being able to support women and men in every step of that journey, especially in the early days of becoming a parent.
But you're a great role model, and I know you do a lot of work in the community. You might talk to us about some of that work. I think you've held workshops, so you've done speaker engagements and that kind of community aspect to what you've been doing.
Yeah, I think the more role models that are out there, then it's easier for girls to consider careers like that. So yeah, I've done bits around the country, I suppose, around women in tech. I'm a big advocate for our own women in Rent the Runway. In Galway, only recently I started a Women in Galway group where really it's an open forum for women to talk about specifics that come up every day. It's also part of our wider employee resource group, which is the Women in Tech Rent the Runway employee resource group, which is incredible to get so many women across the US and Ireland together to really start talking about some of the challenges that they may have seen throughout their career or be advocates and allies for others.
Does it vary, do you think, between the US and Ireland? Is there any... Are we all facing kind of the same challenges?
We're all facing the same challenges, like 100%. I think in the US, there's probably more people talking about it in the room, whereas in Ireland, there's probably less of that, from a conversational piece if you're in a meeting. But I mean, in fairness, I think women across the world globally encounter the exact same issues. So I don't think it's specific to one location or the other.
Yeah, and just kind of somewhat changing tack, but still on that piece around your I guess your employees, and you've hired a HR person, office manager to really engage your employees, but you're a digital first company, you're a digital disruptor, you're growing. Do you think about digital burnout for your teams, and particularly I suppose in the last 16 months when there's so much digital consumption going on in our lives?
Absolutely, 100%. I mean, I know it even from my own terrible habits. I can't put the phone down. But ultimately, yeah, look, I'm a big advocate for people being able to switch off after work. I think it's really important. I think it's important for mental health, for physical health. I'm a huge advocate for people doing physical activity, mental activity that isn't necessarily on your phone as well. It is important for people to feel that they can switch off after work and that they can actually put the phone down and they're able to kind of really say, oh yeah, you know what, that was a great day's work. I was really productive. But now I'm spending time with my family and I'm going to have dinner and I'm not going to check my phone. So yeah, I think digital burnout across the globe is a real challenge for people because amazing companies have made technology amazingly accessible, which is obviously incredible from a benefits perspective. I think we need a little bit more rigor and diligence around how we separate from technology, be it work or play, I think having everything on one device is an incredible opportunity. You play your music, you're calling your mother, you're interacting with your friends, but ultimately, when you really put the phone down and disconnect or turn off your laptop, that's when I think you really have a chance to unwind mentally, which is extremely important.
What does the next phase of growth look like for Rent the Runway in Galway?
Yeah, so it's been such an incredible journey in Ireland over the last few years. I'm really looking forward to seeing what that looks like now post-pandemic as well. So, I mean, in the US, our customers are, renting the most amazing clothes. We're looking to see how fashion trends have changed. They're renting bold colors, big prints. The crop top is back. So really looking and enjoying how our customers are, again, using our subscription service and buying inventory and really understanding what it's like from their perspective as they explore their new worlds as well post-pandemic. In Ireland, I'm particularly looking forward to when we can safely go back to the office. It's going to be incredible for the team to be together. We've hired, I think, 20 to 25 people remotely over the last year. So really getting everybody together when it's safe to do so under the one roof so we can really get to know each other and have a coffee and go for a drink after work and collaborate more and be in an area and do creative sessions, whiteboarding, that type of thing that doesn't translate as well over Zoom. And then once travel, of course, opens back up again, having some of our staff go over from Galway to New York and vice versa from New York to Ireland. I know our CTO Larry, who onboarded during COVID as well. Can't wait for his first trip over to Ireland, which is just going to be incredible. So really getting to see people in the next kind of phase post-pandemic is going to be fantastic. And then ultimately looking forward, how do we continue to grow the Ireland side, continue to work on incredible projects, continue to build the incredible culture, and ultimately have a lot more in-person events than we did have over the last year, looking more towards what we were doing in 2019 from, you know, contributing to the tech community locally, contributing to the tech community nationally, and really ultimately showcasing the amazing work that is going on here in Ireland for Rent the Runway.
Yeah, it's fantastic. And, you know, you've really created such a presence for Rent the Runway in Galway, and, you know, given so much back to the community already. I'm sure everybody is looking forward to more engagement and going back to those collaborative opportunities and seeing people face to face. Just as we kind of maybe wrap up our conversation today, a couple of quick-fire questions for you. So can I ask, which tech company, be it disruptive or not, do you admire the most?
I'm a really big fan of the kind of at-home health diagnostic world. So there's an amazing Irish company called Let's Get Checked. They're doing incredible work at the moment in that whole space. They've really massively grown over the last 12 months specifically because of COVID, but before that they were doing incredible at-home diagnostics. So I think that's a great company.
Fantastic. Can I ask, what is the best leadership advice you have ever been given?
Don't ask somebody to do something you wouldn't do yourself. So ultimately, I think you have to always put yourself in somebody else's shoes and really understand what you're asking somebody to do. And having done it before, then you fully know what you're asking them to do.
Great. What tech leaders do you admire most?
I'm really inspired by those tech leaders who are able to combine social entrepreneurship with tech. So I think of the likes of Food Cloud. So Isolde Ward and Aimee O'Brien, they've done an incredible work on, you know, the whole food wastage space, really how we can help to eliminate food waste in Ireland. And I know they're looking to scale that across globally as well.
Fantastic. And best advice that you would give to an emerging or scaling technology company leader?
Raise investment earlier than you think you need it. Okay. It'll take longer than you think it will.
Interesting. Okay. And last one, in your opinion, what makes Ireland a great location for tech companies to thrive and scale?
Ireland is an incredible place for so many different reasons. Primarily when you look at the incredible universities and colleges you have here, the talent coming out of them. There's also the amazing cross-section of Irish companies, of Irish multinationals, US multinationals that have set up in Ireland that really are helping to contribute to upskilling our amazing engineers working on incredible technologies and really interesting projects. The vibe, the culture we have in Ireland, I think is second to none. We really do know how to mix being extremely serious about our work with having a bit of fun. And at the end of the day, it's about getting that balance right, which makes people really happy and super productive. So, you know, the west of Ireland weather probably isn't amazing, but I have to say our festivals and our food scene makes up for it. So overall, the whole of Ireland is a really wonderful place to be based, and I have definite bias towards the west and Galway.
Well, that is very understandable, but it definitely sounds like talent, culture, really, really key, kind of what I'm taking away from today. But look, Dorothy, this has been absolutely fantastic. It's such a wonderful story. I know from my side in IDA, we're delighted to work with you and really proud to have a company like Rent the Runway, not just in Ireland, but over in the west of Ireland, of Galway. You've shared so much of the story of Rent the Runway, its journey to Ireland, and incredible knowledge on building and scaling technology teams. And I'm sure that those who are watching are equally enthralled and impressed as I am. Your time is really appreciated. So on behalf of the RDS and IDA Ireland, thank you so much. Thanks to those watching. Please feel free to like and share this video to help extend the reach of today's conversation. And also do check out our other Digital Disruptor conversations on the RDS YouTube channel. And please subscribe to the RDS and IDA social media channels for future notifications. Thank you.